everyone for joining today. Thanks to the panelists, Bryan, Courtney, and Dru, and thanks for joining for all the attendees, all the guests. Thanks for joining the first Matt's Chats of the new year. Really excited for this. For those joining for the first time, just a quick sort of context on what we're trying to do here with Matt's Chats. It is a monthly webinar series where we bring together supply chain experts, e-commerce leaders, typically on the operations side of e-commerce, as well as tech professionals for discussion on the latest news in logistics and e-commerce. So really excited for today's chat. We've got Bryan Corbett, the VP of Sales, Marketing, and BD over at Barrett Distribution. He's here to represent best-in-class 3PL capabilities. We have Courtenay Schick, head of U.S. operations at WaterDrop, showing us what aggressive U.S. expansion looks like operationally and encouraging us to drink more water. I've got my water, but this is probably perceived as a competitor of WaterDrop. Anything.
Read in, by the way, for advertise, you're going to do like live ad reads.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
water,
Yeah,
Ovaltine.
yeah, right. I will be placing an order after this session because I do consume a lot of water. So the product looks right up our alley here. And finally, we have Dru Carpenter, the co-founder of Yuzu, which I only know as like a lemon, right? Isn't it lemon or yeah, right? You're kind of nodding your head. So very eager to kind of dive into what Yuzu does. But he's here to demonstrate how post-purchase experience drives retention and LTV. Before we get into things and allow the panelists to provide a quick intro on who they are and their companies and their role, I just wanted to quickly thank Bryan and the team at Barrett Distribution for not only appearing as a guest, but also sponsoring this episode of Matt's Chats. And if anyone is interested in being a guest or sponsoring a future episode, just shoot me a note after this and we can chat about that. So with that said, let's get started with some introductions. Maybe we'll go Courtney, Dru, and Barrett. Just 30 seconds a minute on who you are, your companies, and your role. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I knew I was going to be first. So again, I'm Courtney, the head of U.S. operations at WaterDrop. We're a global company with about over 200 employees now. WaterDrop wants or is striving to be the world's leading hydration brand without actually selling water. We create dissolvable hydration cubes with vitamins and electrolytes in them. And my job is essentially to manage all the U.S. growth and the product once it leaves any of our many suppliers to get to the U.S. and to its end consumer. So my background's in a lot of CPG startups, and that's kind of how I ended up here running the ops.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. Dru?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Dru, co-founder of Yuzu. Yuzu enables brands to turn put personalized postcards inside orders before dispatch, so printed at their 3PL, launching things like gift messaging, targeted offers, loyalty nudges, all in kind of relation to what they're doing already via digital channels. We partner at the moment with about 75 3PLs, work with about 50 brands directly. So yeah, in a nutshell, connecting with customers when they're most receptive, which is when they're opening their order, and trying not to slow down fulfillment processes or working with 3PLs directly in that process.
Dru, I love the idea of doing it on site, by the way, at the 3PL.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like what you're doing. Bryan Corbett, I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at Barrett. I might be the senior in the room right now. I've been in the industry for a long time. For Courtney, you're laughing, but I was a founder for about 15 years. Ran my own company, sold it. Sold my last company, and then entered in supply chain about 10 years ago. So worked at a couple different 3PLs, and now I'm a Barrett. I head up our marketing and hybrid sales, and love doing stuff like this. So thanks for the invite, Matt.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Bryan, you and I have known each other for I don't know, 5, 6, or 7 years. I know we bumped into each other at a conference, a few years back. So and we've been pen pals and friends ever since then. So really glad that you're here. And Courtney, first time you and I met, and Dru, I think we met probably about a year ago, around the time that the business was launching. So glad to have you here. So let's get into some things. We actually do have a chat as well as a Q&A function on the bottom on the bottom of your Zoom screen. So feel free to post anything in the chat, any questions you have, or put in the Q&A if you want to be a little bit more formal. But we'll see either one, and we'll try to kind of answer some of your questions in real time. And if we don't get to it, then we can sort of direct that at the right person, and you guys can follow up after the session. But definitely want to really get started with the elephant in the room here, which is the difficulty around scaling, right? I know that sounds awfully cliche because we talk about it a lot, but it's the truth. And having come from the brand side, the operating side before getting more into the supplier side, if you will, I've had a lot of experience and know firsthand that it's really, really easy for a brand operator to hit a wall, whether it's operationally, financially, technically, or technologically. Usually it's all of the above. So I'm really eager to sort of go around the horn and understand what are some of the biggest obstacles that you're seeing brands face. Whether Courtenay, it's WaterDrop, or with Bryan and Dru, brands in your ecosystem that you support. What are some of the obstacles that you're seeing brands face as they grow into 2026 and really accelerate their businesses? Maybe we'll start with Bryan, and that's too broad of a question.
No, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's I am curious what Courtney thinks because I know they have such you guys have such good you have like two case studies. You have Europe, you have I think you're in other continents actually, not just Europe, but then you have United States. You have a brand perspective. But I can talk about from the 3PL side in terms of, I think I think there's been a major shift really since going back to when the Facebook ads were changed. I don't think it's truly changed since then. And Matt, you guys all might remember, there was like a spigot. You could turn on Facebook ads and run them continuously. Apple changed you know, their algorithm, and I think brands had to get more creative on how to grow. But we'll keep it in terms of operations, I guess, on my side and the 3PL side. I consistently come back to the people. I mean, I was going through questions, and so many of my answers were like, well, I think it's because of the people you have at your 3PL, the people you have on your floor. I mean, obviously, I'm biased towards Barrett, but I was at Kenco, I was at other 3PLs before this, and when I see where 3PLs struggle and where brands tend to switch partners, is usually about the people running the floor, people running the solution. So I think to be specific, I think one of the big hurdles the brands run into is when they move into different channels. So maybe they're direct to consumer. They're with the 3PL for a long time. They're doing direct to consumer every day, and then they're adding in retail stores or retail compliance or some other wrinkle into a new sales channel. And their current 3PL just simply doesn't have experience there. They tend to be a guinea pig. They tend to have a little bit, no matter the software, no matter the tech that you're using, they tend to not have that experience on the floor, and then they break, and then they look for a new 3PL provider. When I think about people, I think about the right GM can go out on the floor and identify a poorly labeled pallet in like 3 seconds because he's seen it for 10 years, right? That's hard for a GM that has no experience in retail compliance. So I'll just use that as one example. I'll pass it around the room, but I tend to see different growth into different channels is where the operations tends to break if you're not with the right partner. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it comes down to like the most simplest answer, which is having the right product at the right time in the right places. Like, we have a really diverse ecosystem of supply chain where we own most of the pieces, and it's like, yes, are the people as invested in making sure that this is going to happen, and can we get the product and deliver it if ads start performing, you see like, okay, we sold out of something and now we can't bring this ad back to start reperforming. So for us, it's just been, how can we be as nimble as possible, especially in the US, to, like, what are we willing to sacrifice in order to have the product on hand? And like with the 3PL partners, like when I started, we had a different 3PL partner. Like prior to me joining WaterDrop, it was, do we fulfill from our warehouse in the Czech, or do we find a partner in the US? Ultimately, it was, let's find someone in the US who kind of just got us through the first couple years. And then it was like, how do you become efficient with it? Because if you want a good customer experience, it's one thing, but if you want to make money, it's another, right?
You were fulfilling Courtney into the U.S. from the Czech Republic. Is that right?
It was a really strong consideration because it would have been cheaper when we didn't have the volumes. So we were like, okay, we could do this easily. We could air freight these parcels in, but then it really highly goes against our sustainability mission. So we thought, okay, we'll eat the cost initially, the first like 2-3 years, to have a partner in the US, in the middle of the US, and make it like a little more sustainable to ship it out rather than sending and having this huge carbon footprint of air freight parcels.
Totally. Dru, I'm curious since you live mostly on the post purchase side. Um, I might be very wrong in saying what I'm about to say, but I feel like brands are often, and honestly, not just feel like, I know I've experienced that brands often sort of deprioritize the post-purchase experience when they're so focused on kind of day-to-day growth, as Courtney was sort of suggesting, and Bryan as well, like just getting out today's orders today and doing it accurately and in a cost-effective means. So I'm eager for you to make the case for us, like why brands do in fact care a lot about that post-purchase experience, and why it's not sort of decoupled, in fact, very much related to the ability for brands to continue to scale.
Yeah, well, I think Bryan raised a really good point there in terms of some of those easy acquisition levers turning off or changing over time with headwinds around iOS and Facebook. So, look, if you're in hyper growth and ads are just printing money, sure, ignore retention, ignore post purchase for a period of time. But that window's short, and generally, retention is the backbone of any business. It's how many of your customers can you keep, and how many of your existing customers go on to make a repeat purchase. It's a lot easier to sell an existing customer on a new product than it is to sell to someone that's never even heard of your brand. Um, so when we think about post-purchase, I think a lot of the channels that we look at are mostly growth and marketing focused, and then an ops lead or team member gets looped in as an additional stakeholder. Obviously, you've got your online channels, email, SMS. Every brand is utilizing those and adapting those over time. But then you've got things like inserts where, the average brand might order 50,000, 100,000 generic inserts, put that into each order as a program for 3 to 6 months, analyze it after 6 months and realize they can't track or attribute anything and go, maybe that worked for the customer experience, but this isn't making us money, so let's turn it off. Where we come in really is attributing to each individual customer. So tracking individual QR code scans, putting unique discount codes on inserts. So from a growth and marketing perspective, the value is there and can be clearly attributed. And then the challenge for us really is looking at ops and 3PL teams and going, this is going to work within your workflow at peak periods. And this is going to be nice and automated with your WMS system and integrations, which potentially we can delve into on a later question. But yeah, look, I think retention is the backbone, and we're on a mission to make it trackable from an offline and insert perspective.
Dru, I'll give you a plug right now, regardless, because I think this is a theme for what you're selling. Is I'm amazed how many brands that I see, um, who don't take advantage of either custom packaging or inserts or just some of the easy low hanging fruit. I guess they might not seem like there's a value there anymore. But if you for premium brands and for when you're not selling on price, I don't know. It's probably not for me. Like but I'm not gonna lie. Like I kind of like when I get the colored bag and the insert and the card, and I get a feeling when Amazon, because it's like Amazon is so blah and brown and sad, right? I mean, we've all opened up it's a sad experience in a
Right.
way. It's
It
like,
creates like that custom experience where you
yeah,
feel like the brand's actually connecting with you individually, right?
100%. And Courtney, like WaterDrop has some of the best packaging I've ever seen, like for actual product. Makes you want to like it's a packaging that makes you want to eat it. You know what I mean? You ever seen like the candy or the drinks and you just want to taste it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised more brands and companies don't take advantage of the 10 cents or whatever it might be to throw an insert in a box. Yeah.
I think like
Yeah, I mean, I think
Go ahead, Courtney.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, like, I think for us, like, it becomes we want a consistent experience throughout every single water drop. So if you go into one of our stores, you get the same experience in France that you do in Minnesota. But because we use so many different tech stacks, can become a barrier to bringing on new tools because it can't be rolled out globally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks, Jennifer, for plugging uh, our unboxing series here at Third Person, which I will be able to unbox WaterDrop. Hopefully, well, if I place an order today, Brian, is my order gonna ship today? Right?
It'll be there tonight.
Tomorrow,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
ship
yeah,
some.
exactly, right? Although, by the time I get around to it, it'll be after noon central, so I'll give you a little bit of grace. But I'll see it early next week. I'll be out of town Friday, so when I come back, I'll have to do an unboxing and to help exemplify that experience. But yeah, look, I mean, you're absolutely right, Brian. That it is sort of shocking how so few brands take advantage of it, and I think that. Um, Part of the challenge that I think I've seen and Dru, I mean, this is part of the mission of Yuzu is to almost be the antithesis of that kind of boring and blah that you often get with orders. Is that like it's just collateral that I toss out because it's meaningless, right? It doesn't speak to me individually as a person, right? It's not handwritten, it's not customized, and that's where the opportunity is, right? Like even this sweater that I'm wearing here, which is one of my favorite brands, Rowback. um, they have quite a bit of marketing collateral in their boxes. But one of the pieces, and this is going to sound kind of silly to say, but one of the pieces that actually, when you open it and it talks about kind of, their brand and everything, their mission, there's actually what appears to be like a excuse me, a handwritten thank you in like a blue marker. And, it's probably something that, when there's some downtime in the warehouse, some associate just writes thank you over and over and over again, tens of thousands of times. But like even that small little touch was like, me as an operator, I'm like, oh, that actually took someone time to do, right? It adds a little bit more personalization, or, when you order
The
something.
hoodies are also awesome.
What's that?
I said the hoodies are awesome too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I buy for the clothing certainly, but
No, I know you're right. I
um,
agree with you.
yeah. So really, really, really neat what you're building there, Dru, and all brands and 3PL should be exploring Yuzu. Brian, maybe
Yeah.
back to you. I'm curious on like, given that, you're an entrepreneur yourself, and certainly on the 3PL side, you work with a lot of brands, Courtney's brand, as well as, dozens and dozens of other brands. I'm curious, like, where do you typically see that operational breaking point? Is it a function of revenue? Like when you hit 10 million in sales, is it 100 million? Do you think of it more on an order volume basis? Is it when you're going from kind of single channel, nowadays Shopify to
Yeah, I think
Amazon,
so.
Target, Walmart? Like what are some of those early sort of milestones
Yep.
for challenges?
And real quick, I think Marissa, was asking about the 50K, 100K. Marissa, did you mean like spent money to spend on inserts activity? Before we get off that subject, because volume. Still not Matt. Are you? I'm still not following the question. No, I
Yeah,
want to
for
answer it if we can.
companies just starting out that can't afford large scale, um, I'm guessing, Marissa, the question is probably directed at Dru.
Okay.
Like I mean, maybe we'll try answering it this way, and Marissa, let us know if you meant it elsewhere. But like, are there like minimums, Dru, with Yuzu? Like, do I need to print like 100,000 to get started? Can I do a run of 10? Maybe share a little bit there. And Marissa, if we've hit the mark, feel free to add a little bit more context.
Yeah, sure. So for us, there's no minimums. To get started, you need a $99 software subscription with us, and then a $300 printer. We actually typically see things at both ends of the spectrum. So you've got founders that are fulfilling their own orders and handwriting a note in every order, and they want to maintain a personal touch when they move to a 3PL or when they try and create more efficiency right at the start of their journey. And then we've got larger brands that have kind of saturated existing channels. They've perfected their emails, their SMS, they're doing direct mail, and they want to add another touch point or activity channel to those existing retention efforts. So look, a minimum software plan, but we've got brands just starting. We've got very large brands. There's a real range.
Okay, that's
Awesome.
great.
Matt, so your question was around breaking points on maybe on the 3PL side, or were you asking what do I see? Are there
Yeah,
brand
yeah,
levels? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
sure, yeah. More so on the brand side.
Right.
Yeah,
It's hard to say. It's a good question. I think there's, if I can relate it to like D2C levels, like in terms of how many orders per day. I think so many people are used to thinking about how big their D2C business is based on orders per day. So let's do it that way. So I think there's levels. There seems to be level ups at 200 orders a day, 500 orders a day, 1,000 orders a day. And then those seem to be kind of like the three kind of levels that I see brands go through, where you get to a consistent 200 orders a day, and then it's 500, and then you can be anywhere from in that 500, 600, 400 for like a year, and then then your customer cycle repeats every year, or your retention cycle, whatever that is, and now you're at 1,000 orders a day. These tend to be points that break, not just break they don't really break the 3PL. They might break the 3PL side, or the brand side rather. And then I think that the level up for the brand is always, again, adding the channel or the ERP. Once you get to that 1,000, you're like, okay, we need NetSuite, we need an ERP, we need to change our tech stack. Courtney, does this resonate with you? Does you feel that way? I mean, I'd love to hear what you think. Is that kind of the flow?
Yeah, I mean, I think for like from my point of view, it's more so like the adding of channels and the complexity of the channels. So like as D2C is growing, then Amazon is blowing up because they kind of correlate together. So then you're not only trying to fulfill these orders, you're trying to replenish. And just like from the ops side, it just kind of starts to go at those same levels as well, I would say.
great. Um, Courtney, I want to stay with you. I did have a question, but I see that Nick asked a question here in the Q&A. I think you'd be well positioned to respond to Nick. He asks, for multi-channel fulfillment, is it better to find a 3PL partner that does all channels, or find a separate partner that specializes in each channel, e-com, brick and mortar, wholesale? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my personal preference is to have one provider that can do all of those things
I
for
was
you.
gonna say, Court, you like, if you
I
say
mean,
anything else, you're crazy.
yeah,
Imagine
exactly.
dealing with 10 of us, right? No.
Right. Because you then go from managing inventory at one location to managing inventory at 6 locations. All of those have different requirements. If you're talking food product, you have best by dates, you have packaging, etc. So you can really be more nimble with your inventory and flex to what each channel needs by having everything in one place. And then with that as well, you get volume, which means you get better pricing for all channels rather than having them
It's
so
not
break apart.
that, it shouldn't be that complicated where you need 10
Exactly.
different partners. The
Exactly.
trend right now is contraction. It's
Yeah.
not 10 nodes and 3 partners. If you're doing that, I mean, there's few examples where a business supports that, Matt. Like, and you probably know the brands off your top of your head, but if you control your entire supply chain, if you create your products in the US, if you have 5 SKUs, you could think of the brands that I'm thinking of. Like, yes, maybe you could have multiple partners in different nodes. But the costs behind that are extraordinary. And so it never works out. It just doesn't. And it sounds I don't even know if it sounds good anymore, Courtney. You know what I mean?
And I
Like,
mean, like,
it,
you think that's
it-
just more management as well, right? Like,
right.
I own the relationship between Barrett and all of our daily
Yeah.
operations. If I have 5 partners that I'm then working with, that's almost impossible for me to be managing the
Yeah.
relationship with 5 different 3PLs that all have separate needs each day.
We've actually turned things away
Mm.
when companies came to us with opportunities that were pieces of their business, even. Unselfish, you know what I mean? Matt, like, unselfishly, like, said, like, you know what, like, we know this isn't a good idea for you, and we don't want our brand associated with it necessarily going poorly. Because if you're using another 3PL for this and you want us to just do the omni-channel or the B2B side, like, yeah, we can do it, but it's not ideal. And now we have data sets and two different 3PLs, and we have to talk to each other, and we don't communicate. You know, there's a bunch of things that go on there that I get nervous about. It's a really good question, and it's something that I'm just noticing that brands are consolidating right now. They're
Yeah.
consolidating nodes. They're consolidating partnerships. Rightly so. They found out. They messed around and found out how costly it can be to split shipments, to manage inventory, to double up their inventory, to do all these things, all to save 80 cents on a parcel shipment and get a 3-day delivery instead of a 4-day delivery. You know, they're finding out that maybe people don't care. If it's not Amazon, have it show up within the week. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of things are changing, Matt. I mean, are you guys seeing the same things with your client base and the customers that you work with? Is that
Yeah, yeah, and no, totally, and I completely agree, Brian and Courtney, that anytime you go from 1 to 2, or 1 to 3, it scales linearly in the sense that like the difficulty scales linearly, right? Like managing 3 partners is 3 times as hard as managing 1 partner, and I think the theme that both of you are sharing is that you're not getting 3 times the benefit, right? You're getting kind of, unless you're the Amazons of the world, or, the major retailers where, they're talking in basis points terms, right?
you should be getting 7 times the benefit, not 3, right? It
Yeah,
should,
well, yeah, absolutely.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this kind of originates from, gosh, like even 10 years ago, in e-commerce, or really commerce, but if you think of commerce as, online and offline, just 10 years ago, um, it was different, right? Like this kind of notion of, having a 3PL that managed my B2B business, my retail business or wholesale business, and having a 3PL managing my direct to consumer, well, 10 years ago, maybe it wasn't Shopify, maybe it was Magento or one of the others, but you get the point. Like that made a little bit more sense to me, frankly, a lot more sense. But today, when technology has made it, so much easier to integrate with, the Shopifys of the world, certainly, but also, when there's a lot of, middleware companies and EDI connectors where, a 3PL that maybe didn't have the chops to work with the big box retailers, it's a lot easier today. You can have all this, under one roof.
And Matt, that's still people though, because it's like, you know, with SPS and retail ready. I mean, the software drives everything. So
Yeah.
really, when a 3PL can't handle omni-channel fulfillment, it's that they just don't have. They usually don't have tenured people who have been in the industry that long. They just don't.
Yep.
It,
Yep.
it's because you can still get the shipments to the retailers, but are you going to have no chargebacks? Are you going to have an OM on the floor that knows how to label properly and knows what he's doing? So again, it's just there's thousands of 3PLs. There's only so many people to go around.
Yeah.
So that's the old Bryan in me that I've started to see this the last couple of years, and I realized, yeah, we're not perfect. We don't do everything right all the time. Courtney knows that, but generally, we have the right people that will figure things out, know what they're doing, not rack up chargebacks and get stuff out the door when you need to. I don't know what that's worth. Probably.
Exactly. I mean,
Go ahead,
Brian
Courtney.
can attest to this. I went on the 3PL search for a full year. Like we didn't, I think we started speaking in March and we didn't sign until like next
It
August.
was a long
It
sales
was a
cycle,
very long
Courtney.
time just to ensure that like we're going with the right partner at the right time and that the cost savings would really outweigh the benefit of moving and all of the one-time expenses that we're going to incur.
Yeah. Well, I wish you would have known me back then. I would have saved you
Hmm.
a lot of headache, but here we are. Um, uh, uh, Dru, I want to ask you a question regarding technology, and whether it's post purchase tech or just kind of up and down a brand's tech stack. There's millions of solutions out there, right? There's really an endless number. Um, in your opinion, how should brands think about their tech stack? Like, what's worth investing in versus what are some of these nice to have solutions? Like, how do you sort of think through that decision? I know there's a lot of brand operators on this session. So I know they're kind of curious of how to like think about, prioritization and, what we should be focusing on.
For sure. Yeah. And I know that the average Shopify brand has dozens of Shopify apps. So there's lots of decisions to be made. I think the way I roughly think about it is those apps that are more transactional or kind of table stakes. So if you're looking about things like returns processing, order tracking, shipping updates, customer service, help desk, those are all things that you need. And you find the best vendor for you in those markets. And then you've got the marketing and engagement piece where you've got a series of online, which are typically the tools that you're making choices on. So whether that's a loyalty app, referral app, email, SMS, they're all digital channels and they're all optimizing things online. There's not a lot really that comes into marketing from an offline format. I mean, you've got a few direct mail providers, and then you've got a solution like Yuzu. For us, really, the personalization that we offer is only valuable based on the amount of data that we have on a customer product and order. So really, we're just an integration connector to a certain extent, integrating with the wide variety of apps, the wide variety of sales channels, as well as the wide variety of WMS systems. So we're kind of involved and in front of all of them, and it's just ultimately getting the right integration for the brand and 3PL that we're working with. So I think we've got something like 60 integrations at the moment, 20 WMS integrations, a series of marketing app integrations. The list goes on really. But yeah, transactional, get the right provider for you for those returns, order tracking, etc. Marketing and engagement, again, you've got your table stakes, but do look at those new initiatives and channels like Yuzu, direct mail, other systems where offline is making a comeback.
I got two quick questions for you, Drew. First one, how long does it take to integrate with Yuzu generally? And the second one is, um, besides that lemon that I mentioned earlier in the call that I think of when I think of Yuzu, now thinking more of your brand, but um, where did the name come from? Like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So in terms of integrations, if you want to get up and running with something we've already got, it's just clicking a couple of buttons and you're integrated. For any new WMS or marketing app integrations, our team aim to turn them around in 72 hours. That's really been the unlock for our growth in just integrating with any system that's out there, knowing that we're going to meet future customers and prospects and 3PLs that are using those systems. Um, the name, one of my co-founders is quite into citrus fruit and has a tendency to buy domains when he's had a bit too much to drink. Yusu was one of those, and it was just quite a
That's
quick.
fantastic, by the way. I was not expecting that.
Drunk GoDaddying is not something I had come across before, but I like that.
So yeah, it's a citrus fruit. We may kind of build a demo store and CPG brand behind it at some point. It's getting introduced a lot more as a flavor. So that's about it really. There's no deep meaning.
Fair enough. I like that. Sometimes kind of silly things like that are the ones that stick. I know we only have a few minutes left, and there's already been a few good questions. But if anyone does have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get to that. I guess for sort of the formal part of the session, I just have a couple more questions. Maybe kind of looking ahead and sort of predictions, for the new year. Um, Maybe we can kind of do this in like, rapid fire, but curious if, each of you can provide a prediction for the year or, maybe even like what is one thing that brands should start doing in 2026 or start doing more of? And maybe, the flip side of that, what's something that brands should stop doing in 2026? So, I don't know if yeah, who wants to give that a start, but yeah, feel free to hop in.
I'll go. Skew retirement programs. Skew retirement programs. I'll repeat. Skew retirement
They
programs.
should start doing more of that. I imagine is what you're
Yeah, and
suggesting.
attraction, consolidation, and it's retail, right? So I've been in retail. Too much inventory is bad. It's always been the death sentence for retail. It will continue to be the death sentence. So I would say continue to clean up SKUs that don't sell, SKUs that don't move. Focus on your core strengths. These are basic things, but they're very difficult. They really are. They're very difficult. I've been on the other side, and even if you're not, a know-it-all about your business, it's very difficult to put things to bed or to kill something, right? Or to throw something away, but it costs money over time. Courtney, I'll pass it to you because you'll see you shaking your head, but that's my advice, even on the 3PL side.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just went through a huge phase of that ski retirement last year. I think for us, it's treating operations as a growth engine, not a cost center. And like in order to be truly omni-channel, we all have to be working together and taking into account these overstocks and slower selling products to get rid of them to become more efficient as a brand. And I don't know. What, awesome, Nick. What else should we stop doing? I think that that's a tough one. This was not on my, my
Courtney, how do you
pre-read.
feel? How do you feel about sales and discounting in general in the space?
I mean, it's a gray area, right? Like
Yeah.
sales creates more revenue,
Right.
but diminishes margins. I think, the hot topic is this last year was the tariffs for
Yeah.
importing. And as we import everything, it's been huge.
Right.
I think it's a
Because
great lead.
you're a premium brand too, though. It's like it's not the cheapest thing in the world. It's not super expensive, but like because I see different strategies getting thrown out in the world right now with spend 100 get free shipping or buy 5 get one. I'm just curious what brands are we rethinking those things in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through a whole kind of COGS analysis right now to determine like, will we meet the mark with our current strategy because of all these additional tariffs? So I think it's just really being very cognitively aware of it when planning our sales, specifically with D2C. And then again, it's just working together, being fully omni-channel, making sure that the assumptions that are being made are accurate and not just an assumption.
Drew, I'm curious, anything that comes to mind that brands should do more of this year or do less of, or both?
Yeah, I think a big focus or something that we're thinking about a lot, and maybe that's just because we've come out of the Christmas period, but is brands enabling gifting as a channel. Um, we kind of see it as analogous to subscription. So 5, 10 years ago, you'd be a subscription company and you'd sell subscriptions, but tech has enabled any brand to set up a subscription as part of their business offering. For gifting, so making it super easy for someone to come on site, select a giftable product, choose a card design that says Merry Christmas, write a gift message, and get that included as a great experience in the box, is something that we think we're helping unlock and is something that we think a lot more brands are going to tune into coming into the new year. Not only is it a great customer experience, but every gift order has two customers in a sense. You've got the person that purchased the product and the person that's receiving it. So it's also a really great opportunity for acquisition and educating that person that's receiving the product. So that's what we're focused on, and obviously slightly skewed by the business that we're in.
Sure. And yeah, Jennifer just put in a comment that, and I love this. I love this strategy. Promos that increase AOV, average order value, have been our strategy since tariffs came into play. Profitability has been a higher focus than growth. So, yeah, I mean, you often go on a website of a brand, and the first thing you see is that spin wheel or some other pop up, 20% off your first order, and all that does is, I mean, sure, it's a tactic to get you to convert. I mean, I'll take 20% off, but it doesn't necessarily increase ALV. But there's a number of strategies that whether it's free shipping is kind of like the old trick in the book to kind of increase ALV to get to a certain threshold. But yeah, I know Jennifer and her team at BK Beauty are have some other tactics there. Um, maybe one maybe two final questions, and again, if anyone has a question, feel free to pop it in the chat here. Um, but somewhat related to the last question on kind of start and stopping, but where should brands be spending money in their operations this year? Is there a certain area, and probably more on their kind of supply chain than on the e-commerce side? But yeah, is there anything that comes to mind where brands should be spending more money? Maybe it's inventory management, planning, finding a great warehouse provider? Anything that sort of comes to mind there?
I mean, for us this year, it's a lot around master data and ensuring that that's accurate because that really, impacts all of our reporting, that impacts our inventory, especially like having so many subsidiaries globally. We need to be consistent and concise with our reporting. So that's like one of our big initiatives this year from the ops side is to ensure that all of that is cleaned up. And we've, brought in some support to make that happen.
Bryan or Dru, anything to add there?
No, I think it was beautifully said because I think we could have a whole conversation on clean data. Right? That's a ski retirement and bad data. These are basic things though, right, Court? I mean, they're not. I don't have like some secret answer to stuff. It's clean up your data, clean up your SKUs. So many of those things are there. I think we all know intuitively how important they are, but they're kind of like cleaning the bathroom a little bit. It's like nobody really wants to do it. Nobody wants to sit down and stare at a spreadsheet and go line by line and then re-import something back into a database, right? But that's invaluable. I don't know.
No, it's
Amen to
great.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we are right at time here. I just popped everyone's LinkedIn profiles in the chat here, so feel free to connect with them. I know they would love to chat with anyone offline. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Bryan and the team at Barrett, Dru and Courtenay. Great to meet the two of you. Thanks for all the attendees for joining. Again, this will be emailed around. You're here because you're registered, so you'll get an email shortly with the full recap, and it'll be on our socials within the next day or two. So thanks everyone for joining this month. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, the
Thanks,
time.
guys.